Ladies and gentlemen, if you would find your seat, prepare. That was amazingly quick. Thank you. Now I have to stall for a second. Well, good morning. Thank you all for coming out today on this important occasion here at the McConnell Center. For all those that are watching our live stream, thank you for tuning in today. McConnell Center has begun a year-long celebration of our 35 years here at the University of Louisville. In those years, we brought some of the most consequential thinkers, authors, and political figures here to the university and to the Louisville community. And today, thanks to the continuing efforts of Senator McConnell, we're pleased to host one of those consequential leaders from Washington today in Senator Shelley Capito. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would join me in welcoming and rise to welcome the interim provost of the University of Louisville, Catherine Cardarelli, Senator Shelley Capito, and our senior senator, Mitch McConnell.
Thank you. Please be seated. Good morning, everyone. It is my great privilege to welcome someone who certainly needs no introduction on this campus or in our community. United States Senator Mitch McConnell graduated with honors from the University of Louisville in 1964 with a major in political science, and, my favorite fact, he served as the student body president. In 1967, he graduated from the University of Kentucky College of Law, where he was elected the president there of the Student Bar Association. Despite his UK affiliation, we choose to believe that his heart has always remained here at U of L. That's right. Senator McConnell served as Jefferson County Judge Executive from 1978 until he was sworn in to the U.S. Senate in January of 1985. On June 27, 2005, he became the longest-serving Republican senator from Kentucky, breaking a record previously held by Senator John Sherman Cooper. In November 2006, Senator McConnell was unanimously elected Republican leader for the 110th Congress by his Republican colleagues. He is only the second Kentuckian to serve as the leader of his party. In 1991, the McConnell Center was established at the University of Louisville as an endowed center dedicated to providing a nonpartisan, well-rounded education that encourages top undergraduates to become valued citizens and future leaders. As part of the McConnell Scholars Program, Senator McConnell brings internationally recognized speakers to U of L's campus for enlightening presentations, such as the one that we will hear today. Please join me in welcoming U of L alum and #1 Cardinal fan, Senator Mitch McConnell.
Good morning, everyone. It's a special treat this morning to have one of my buddies here. She was a little squeamish about running for leadership. I think I talked her into it. And she's now the top woman in our Republican conference. Thanks for the nice introduction. You know, I used to be the leader of our party in the Senate. In fact, I did it for a very long time. And people would come up to me and say, what's it like? I said, well, it's a little bit like being the groundskeeper at a cemetery. Everybody's under you, but no one is listening. It's great to be back on campus today, and great to be here with Shelley. President Bradley is new to the job, and so is our provost. Dr. Gregg and Sherry Allen have been here a very long time. And their commitment to the program has really made a difference. This started out as just scholarship. It's a lot more than that now. And I want to say to all of you, Gary Gregg has taken this to new heights, and we're so grateful wherever you are, Gary. Give Gary a hand, he deserves it. Well, like me, Shelley didn't stumble into a career in politics. In fact, she was fully immersed from a young age, attending parties, dinners, and campaign events alongside her father, Arch Moore, the longest-serving governor in West Virginia history. And along the way, she was always listening. I have found that helpful myself. She would continue to use this skill for the rest of her career. We should all be fond of saying, I think we speak much more forcefully when we listen first, which is really important in Congress these days. Everybody seems to be angry. About what? I'm not certain. This is still a great country. It doesn't need to be great again. It's already great. So we'll forgive her for the next thing she did. She went off to Duke. And listen to this, to get a degree in zoology. As she observed to me before, her zoology major prepared her to work in the biggest zoo in America. Then she attended the University of Virginia to get her master's degree in counseling, where she further developed her skills, including an all-important one, listening. But this impressive educational background was only just the beginning. After returning to West Virginia, Shelley spent the early stages of her career working with students at West Virginia State University as a career counselor for several years. But family came first for Shelley, and she devoted her full-time efforts to raising her kids. Everyday events in the life of a mom taught her how to herd cats and keep rambunctious groups playing nicely together. You can see where I'm going with this. The more Shelley listened, the more you can get a good result. Talking all the time is not a great way to lead. It's better to listen to what people are interested in before stepping up and hopefully leading the group. Nobody's done it better than Shelley. So she decided to run for the State House of Representatives to represent Charleston and begin her own journey in public service. Then came a bid for Congress. In the election of 2000, she upset her opponent by 2 points, becoming the first Republican to represent West Virginia in Congress since 1983. At the time Shelley got elected, there were basically no Republicans in West Virginia. Now, just like Kentucky, there are no Democrats. Served in the House for 7 terms, working on the Financial Services and Transportation and Infrastructure Committees, earning a reputation for hard work and constituent service. In fact, Shelley clearly enjoyed her job in the House so much that it was tough to convince her to run for the Senate. I tried multiple times. She always said no. Finally, I was exhausted. Finally, in 2014, she said, I'm going to step up, and boy, did she. She didn't just win, she ran up the score with all 55 counties in West Virginia and more than 62% of the vote. In our line of work, that's a big win. And the first Republican to win a full term in the U.S. Senate since 1942. What's even more impressive, she became the first female senator from West Virginia. She immediately brought her intellect and keen ears to the Senate, ready to get things done. Compromise is imperative. And I might say, there are a lot of people running around these days saying, don't ever compromise. That's absolutely nuts. You have to compromise. Shelley's very good at working with people of different points of view. Well, the Senate helps make that happen because it takes 60 votes to do most things, which is good. Because almost never does anybody, either side, have 60. So it means you have to talk to each other, try to make things happen. And I've noticed over the years there are 2 types of people I've run into in politics. Those that want to make a point, easy to do, criticize a member of your party, you'll be in the paper. And those that want to make a difference. And making a difference is hard work. You have to spend a lot of time on it. There's not been a better difference maker in the Senate in my years than Shelley. She had a lot of practice with Joe Manchin. And they got along and worked well together. Joe was a little different. But bipartisanship doesn't stop her from being a strong believer in conservative values. This is evidence when our conference, as I said earlier, elected Shelley to be part of our leadership team. And we're really proud of her, and I can't thank her enough for being here today.
Thank you, Senator. Conducting our conversation this morning will be two young women I am very proud to be associated with. Cara Beth Poe serves as the chair of the McConnell Scholars Program. She's also a leader in her sorority and in student government. You might have seen her on C-SPAN this summer as she helped coordinate the Senate Page program, and during those late nights when the pages weren't allowed to be on the floor, she was on the floor running things. So you might have seen her there. And Macy Waddle. Macy is a senior McConnell Scholar. She serves as the president of the University of Louisville student body, and that was also became chair of the Kentucky Board of Student Body Presidents. Ladies and gentlemen, Cara and Macy.
Dr. Gregg, for the lovely introduction, and thank you, Senator McConnell, for bringing Senator Capito to us here today, and thank you, Senator Capito, for being here today. We're so happy to have you be a part of our Distinguished Speakers Series here at the McConnell Center. Thank you.
We have a few questions for you today to kind of guide our questions, so I'm going to get started. As Senator McConnell mentioned, you were a zoology major in college.
Right.
And I was there this summer. I can speak firsthand that it is a zoo to manage sometimes. So how did you go from being a zoology major to being the first female senator from West Virginia?
Well, first of all, let me thank you, and thank you, Dr. Gregg, and this great program that you all put together. I was able to spend some time with the students here before we came, about an hour. Great questions, ranging from the legacy of my father to what was that you did at your sorority when you were in college? So anyway, thank you all. You all were great, and thank both of you. It's nice to be here. And I want to thank my friend Mitch McConnell for that lovely, my husband just said, why don't you just go home after that introduction? That's great. I do have my husband Charlie with me, so we drove over yesterday through the mountains and through the hills to get here. And we're really, really pleased to be here at Louisville. So basically, for the students, this might be more appropriate. I was a zoology major because I was pre-med. When I went to Duke, I was always good in science and math, and I thought, which I've taken that interest in science and math and then translated it now legislatively into STEM courses and women in STEM and younger STEM and all those kinds of things. And I thought that's where my future would be. I thought that, that being a doctor or being in science would be where I would go. And so I did the one thing that you're supposed to do. I kind of stuck my toe in it, worked in a hospital one summer, and decided I didn't like to see people in pain or the sight of blood. So that's a problem for a doctor. And I pivoted, but I still had my major and connected my major. So I sort of use it as a point to students that you can pivot. Just because if you're majoring in political science now and you decide you want to be a doctor, you can make these pivots in your life. Because there are very few people that have a straight line. I would say Mitch McConnell was one of them. When he was 5, he wanted to be a senator, and so that's why I ended up in zoology. It was sort of the biology major of the time. It was hard, I'll say that. I have a great appreciation for all of our medical professionals, particularly doctors. It's not an easy life, and it's not, getting through school is tough. But that's how I ended up in zoology. Somebody said, do you like animals? I'm like, not really. But I don't admit that publicly because there's a whole animal crew out there that the most likes I've ever gotten on Facebook was when our dog died. And yeah, I put a picture up and they're like, ooh. And it was sad, but I got to put more pet pictures up, I've learned.
Well, thank you. And as noted, you are the only woman in Senate Republican leadership. You chair the Environment and Public Works Committee, and you chair the Labor HSS Appropriations Subcommittee. What made you take on these roles besides Senator McConnell's persuasion, and what were your responsibilities for each?
Well, you know, the chairman system that we have on the Republican side is, and our Democrat colleagues are very envious of the system that we have, because we actually time out of our chairmanships. So you basically run the seats for seniority. And I lucked out on EPW because several of the people that were ahead of me in seniority moved on to be chair of the Armed Services Committee or moved on to be chair of the Energy Committee, and there I was. And so I was the ranking member, which is the lead Republican when your party doesn't have doesn't have the majority. And the reason I got on that committee, because Senator McConnell mentioned I was on transportation and infrastructure. I have instructed my husband not to put on my tombstone, she loved infrastructure. But I do love infrastructure. I just don't want it on my tombstone. But, and so I already had sort of a background in that. And so picking your committees strategically is really important when you come to the Senate. And I wanted something, banking was great on the House side, but it really wasn't as relevant to West Virginia as the environment and public works. So we write highway bill, water bills, all EPA, Corps of Engineers, Fish and Wildlife. It's a very broad, and it's a lot of the environment. And it can be testy because balancing the environment and the economy is tough. And that's where the challenge of trying to be bipartisan as much as we can in that committee is intriguing for me. But I want to get things done, and that's one of the committees you really can get things done on. In terms of appropriations, we have a great history, and I know one of Senator McConnell's guests was the great legendary Senator Robert C. Byrd, who was the earmarker of the world. And if you're on a highway in West Virginia and it's not named Robert C. Byrd, something's wrong. And you're on the wrong state, I guess. But he did a lot of that. And I hadn't done appropriations, and I thought appropriations would be has always been a good place for a small state, and a small state like West Virginia. And then there again, you walk through the chairs. Senator McConnell could chair the full committee because of his seniority, but he does chair the Defense Subcommittee, which is the most powerful subcommittee. I chair Health, Education, and Labor, which is the largest non-defense subcommittee, which is, think about it, NIH, Department of Ed, Department of Labor, all health. And that's a pretty powerful position, and it's important to my state. So I kind of picked those areas according to where my state could be. And then on the leadership front, to be quite honest, I told the students earlier today, when Senator McConnell asked me, why don't you think about running for leadership, I just didn't have the confidence. Imagine this, after all these years of serving in the House and Senate, confidence is still something that I work on every day. I mean, I don't lack confidence, but I gotta hit it harder. And he put me on his leadership team as sort of an add-on when I first came to the Senate in 2014, so I got to see how the leadership meetings worked and being really in the know of what's going on. And so I threw my hat in the ring, and it was great. I was nobody ran against me. We didn't even vote. Landslide. And so I'm now number 4. It's John Thune, John Barrasso, Tom Cotton, me, James Lankford from Oklahoma, and then Tim Scott are the elected leaders on our side. And so I just felt like I feel like we need to have a variety of listening people and voices in leadership. And I felt like I'm not really categorized as being extremely conservative or the most middle. I'm not Susan Collins, the most middle person. So, I represent a small state, and I thank him for giving me the prod to do it and the confidence to do it and to be successful.
Thank you. And then as mentioned, as you were just saying, that you frequently are working across the aisle and you're championing bipartisan solutions. What are some policy areas where you think there's a chance of finding that common ground in the near future?
Well, as I mentioned, I chair the Environment and Public Works Committee. For those of you who build in this country, for those of you who invest in building and developing, one of the biggest stumbling points in the federal government is the permitting process. If you want to build housing complexes and apartments, or I'm pointing over there because I see my friend who used to come visit me all the time, you can't build anything without just enormous red tape and paperwork and years of getting through this. It's whether you want to build a highway, a broadband. Even if you want to site a broadband tower, you have to get permitted. You have to get permitted for these AI and data centers. You got to get permitted for energy development, everything. And the interesting thing is, this is a point at which I think we have great bipartisan hope. Now, if those of you who've watched, you're going to roll your eyes a little bit because we've been talking about this for a while. But what you end up with is a peak where you're both hungry for it. And I think that's where we are, and here's the reason. My ranking member on Environment and Public Works is a man named Sheldon Whitehouse, who is probably the most environmental guy. If you ever watch C-SPAN, which I don't know why you would be, but if you ever watch it, he's up there with his climate change chart talking all the time. He's a coastal state. We have different issues. I'm a coal state, so it is interesting. But when President Trump came into office, he has a different view of renewable energy. And what he has done is cancel some renewable energy projects, like Sheldon Whitehouse's offshore wind project off the state of Rhode Island. He is in pain over this. How can you do this? He's permitted. This is horrible. We shouldn't be able to do it. I agree. If you get the permits, you should be able to move forward. And then I say, can you say XL Pipeline? That's what President Biden canceled when he first got into office. President Obama canceled the largest coal permit in our state of West Virginia that they'd been working on for 10 years when he came in. So the only way to solve this problem, in my view, and I'll make this a shorter answer because this is getting long, is that to get his project done and completed, and to get my projects done and completed, and we would have a lot of crossover here as well because I'm energy agnostic, is to have permitting reform, to have it in the law that the administrator can't come in and change all the regulations, the president can't take permits away. If we have permitting reform solidly written, this should solve everybody's issue, no matter what administration is in office. And so I think that's one that we can. One that we should, another area, is appropriations. We've passed 8 of the 12 bills out of our committee, bipartisan. We've passed 3 onto the floor, which sounds, you're rolling your eyes again because, come on, the year ended September the 30th. You can't do any better than that. That's more than we passed any last year. Senator Schumer did not put one single bill up last year, so we've passed 3. But that's the way that you put your imprint on what does our military look like? What kind of weapons do we want to build? How much money did I put in my bill to biomedical research through NIH? Yes, that's different than what the president wanted to cut NIH by 30%. I said, I'm not cutting NIH by 30%. I'm going to give NIH $400 million more because I want a cure for cancer, a cure for Alzheimer's, a cure for Parkinson's, mental health challenges, all the things that good biomedical research can bring us. So we have a difference. Thank you. And the only way we get that difference is if we join together, because it has to be 60 votes, as Senator McConnell said. So that's 2 examples.
Speaking of finding common ground, we are on day 27 of a government shutdown. Could you talk about a little bit about about what led to this and how we can move forward?
Well, I mean, I call it a misery march, a road to nowhere. What do you do with the government shutdown? You reopen the government. I mean, there's no other end except reopening the government. This is a total disservice to everybody sitting in this room, and the vast amount of people that are now getting more and more individually impacted by this. What happened was we asked, the House passed what's called a continuing resolution. That means you continue spending the same dollars that you had from the previous year until November 21st. Passed it 13 times under President Biden. I voted for it every time. I have never voted to not keep the government open. But we got to this point, and when it came over from the Senate Democrats decided that wasn't enough. They felt like, and there is I mean, I don't want to get too technical here, but there is a pinch point here with Obamacare subsidies that insurance is going to go up and people are going to lose their subsidies and lose their health insurance. I'm just generalizing here. It's much more complicated than that. You're not going to lose your whole subsidy, your Obamacare subsidy. It's just during COVID, they put an extra they being the Democrats, only Democrats, no Republicans voted for this, put an extra subsidy on there. And it's a smaller subsidy, but it's a subsidy. We all know insurance prices are going up, and so they decided that if we don't talk about this, if they don't get $1.4 million worth of spending and this issue fixed, they're not going to vote to reopen the government. Those are the pinch points right now. That's what we're at loggerheads. Our leader and leadership has said, open the government and we're open to negotiation. We'll vote on your bills, we'll negotiate, but you got to open the government first. And they're refusing to do it. We had an issue last week where we voted to pay our troops and our Coast Guard and our TSA and our air traffic controllers. And again, they being the Democrats, with the exception of 3, would not vote for that. So we are now at a point where our SNAP benefits, and I know Kentucky has a lot of SNAP beneficiaries. This is the feeding food for many families. Imagine my state of West Virginia is very impactful to my state. This expires November the 1st. Some Head Start programs. TSA people have lost. Last time I went through TSA, I was like, "Hey, how are we doing?" You know, I was rushing through there because, you know, small town, 5 gates, everybody knows you, and so we've got to do. I hope we talked about this just briefly, and we honestly don't know what's going to happen this week. There's going to be a point at which the bubble's going to burst. I would have thought it would burst. My original prediction was it would last a week. But so I'm out of the prediction business. It's gone on a lot longer, and it's hurting a lot more people.
Thank you. And on a more positive note, in addition to your responsibilities in the U.S. Senate, obviously, you also have a program called the West Virginia Girls Rise Up that you were explaining to us a little bit upstairs. Why did you start this program? What do you hope that girls that do participate in it can take away from the program?
Yeah, thank you, Cara Beth. I love to talk about my West Virginia Girls Rise Up program. The reason I started it as, and Mitch mentioned that my dad was in politics for a long time. And every day I get an Archmore story. There's probably one in the audience today. My dad was a long-serving, we're right next door. And it was, your dad helped us get the lights for the football field, or your dad helped my mother find my brother. He was in Vietnam and he wasn't writing any letters, and we were so worried about him. And so when he was a congressman, he went to the Department of Defense and made sure that the son had to then sit in his commanding officer's tent every night and write his mother a letter after that. But to make sure he was all right. Your dad helped in the immigration issue. I mean, just every day a little Archmore story. And it just made me feel so good at the impacts that he had in individual ways. And I thought and a lot of it too is like, I know you guys have Boy State and Girl State. Dad would go, and he was quite the orator. He would, rip it up at Boys State and try to get the guys all excited to be in public service. And so I have now men that are telling me, your dad spoke when we were at Boys State, and he really inspired me to want to serve. And I thought, what would I want my daughter to hear? We have 2 sons and a daughter and 9 grandchildren now. And I said, what would I want my daughter to hear? And I would love for her to hear from another now young woman to say, I saw your mother when she was first woman senator in West Virginia. And now I'm the mayor of the city, or I'm the CEO, or I'm the athletic director, or I lead the Girl Scout troop. But she really inspired me to want to do more than what I thought I could do. So I came up with that idea of inspiring young girls. I picked 5th grade. For those of you who have kids, girls in particular, in 5th grade, or you were a girl in 5th grade, by the time when you get to middle school, kind of all shuts down. So the 5th graders will still talk, and they'll still tell you how they feel. And they're very engaged, and they remember. So I take a celebrity sometimes with me, or somebody, like I took Peggy Whitson, who was the most prolific spacewalking astronaut ever. She's now doing private space travel with, I think, SpaceX or somebody. She's commanded a few shit. Oh, they love it. She had her NASA uniform on. I've had Halle Berry came and talked about being an actress and what that's like. I've had doctors. I've had Dana Perino from Fox News came. She gave me a little saying that I use sometimes. It's not original to her, I don't think, but it's kind of the essence of what Girls Rise Up to me. If you can see me, you can be me. And these girls can look, and I always go to the schools that are sort of out in the hinterlands, you know, that don't get to see a female doctor, or maybe don't get to see a female firefighter, or a commentator, or a senator, or a scientist. And they get into it. And we just kind of have three pillars: education, health and wellness, which is really important to me, and confidence, which is really difficult. And I already spoke about confidence, so I must think about it a lot. Confidence for the girls, because there are studies that show when girls get into that middle school range, they begin to gradually lose their confidence. And so to try to talk about what does confidence mean to you, and how do you frame that in your life. So it's going well. And you know what? I took Rosie Rios was the last person I took. Now, Rosie Rios, you don't know, but she's head of the America's 250 Commission, our celebration next year, celebrating 250. Her mother and father immigrated from Mexico. Her father left her mother with 9 children in this country, and she went to Harvard. I mean, she's just an American story to beat the band. And I think I kind of dragged her there. By the time we finished, 45 minutes later, she was almost standing on the desk. This is great! And the girls were all excited. So it's fun for that participant, too.
And it seems like in this program you give a lot of girls a new role model, someone to look up to. So my question is, what have been some of your role models in public service, and how have they helped you in your career?
Well, I mean, I can't say that my dad and mom really were not my best role models. My mother was a very active first lady. She was into literacy, and she had some great stories about her and Barbara Bush kind of kicking it back, telling jokes and stuff, because they both had a great sense of humor. But she was right there with my dad the whole time. And then my dad was quite the innovator, I thought, and exciting and confident, so confident. And he did a lot of really good things for the state. He told me to make sure you know your issues. You know, it was interesting that Mitch picked my listening skills. I like that. That's a huge compliment to me. I think to try to listen to what people are saying. You can't solve the problems if you're not really listening to what people are saying. And I'll give you an example of that. Actually, we rented a car to drive over here because we're flying back, and the guy at Hertz looks at me and he goes, "Well, you're the highest ranking political figure I've ever seen." And I said, "Yeah, who? Hey, how you doing?" And and he says, "I gotta have that support on my health care." And I'm like, and we started talking about it. And he let me ask him some personal questions like, how much are you making? What do you pay a month? How's this going to impact you? And then I gave him my cell phone, and I said, your new insurance is coming out November the 1st. And I want you to call me and tell me how much it's going up, how much your payment's going up, and how this is going to affect you. Because, we can talk. I can sit here and tell you something about Medicaid, and one of my Democrat friends can sit here and tell you something about Medicaid, and they would be totally the opposite. But this guy's going to give me a real life story of where this hits. So listening, I think, is important, and I learned that from both of my parents. I would say my mom listened better than my dad. He also, they both were just enthusiastic. They loved it. They loved public service. They loved their state. They loved the people, and so I would say they would be my biggest influences. My dad died the day after I got sworn into the U.S. Senate. He actually ran for my seat against Jennings Randolph in 1978 and lost by 1 vote per precinct. Yeah, it crushed him. But he had very advanced Alzheimer's at the time. Both my parents had it. And for some reason, God works in strange ways. He lived one more day, And so I think he kind of knew. He was holding on for me till we could get back. But yeah, he was a good influence on me.
Thank you for that. And then as speaking of role models, Senator McConnell is a role model to many in this room. And then we get to interact with him in Louisville here quite a bit. But what do you think we should know about how he is in Washington, and kind of, do you have any little stories for us about it?
He's the most on-message person I've ever met in my life. What do you think about the weather? The weather's good. What do you think about the ball game? The weather's good. What do you think about the shutdown? The weather's good. I mean, he's amazing to watch, because we would have these after lunch. Me being on the leadership team, we have our stakeouts where the press was there, and and this was another thing. I said to the John Barrasso, who'd been on the leadership, it was my first time. I haven't told you this. My first time there, and they only want to talk to the leader. They don't, they're not going to ask questions. And this is the national press. And I said, well, how am I going to know when this press conference is over? And he says, don't worry, you'll know. So Mitch gets question 1, question 2, question 3, zzz, and he just turns around and walks away. And I looked at Barrasso and I went, I get it now. You know what I think is I think undersold about Mitch, in my view, is how courageous some of his decisions have been. Courageous in that looking at what's right for the country or what's right for the institution, and maybe what's right for the party, at the peril of his own 50 members sitting in there listening to him. I mean, he would take an arrow for any of us, and did quite frequently. And that sounds easy, but it's not easy, especially when you have your own political calculus for yourself. You have to give that up a little bit when you're in leadership. But every day he did that. Every day. It was a selfless act that I don't think, and frustrating to the other side, and so effective. But he was also known for saying, you'll never get in trouble for you'll never get in trouble for something you never say. So he's a man of few words, as we know. And I read his book, The Long Game, and I loved reading it. I read it at the beginning so I would understand a little more about him and his life and his battle with polio. I love his mother. I mean, I just love her. She's just right there with you all the way. And, knowing that about a leader, I think really helps to know where they're coming from in their personal lives. And he let us, he always was looking at the long game. Like, it wasn't how's this going to impact today, it's how's this going to impact in the next year or the next 5 years. And we're so immediate in this arena that to have that talent, I think, is really exceptional.
Thank you. And just to wrap it up with our final question, what is your advice to young people watching online or who are here with us today who are interested in public service or just community support in general?
Well, I think if you're interested in public service or running for public office, there's no better way than to get involved in a campaign. I mean, I can tell you, us candidates, we love young people. Come on, get that sign. Let's walk in the parade. Let's go door to door. Let's make a phone call. Let's learn how to write a press release. Talent and let's get your school groups together. That's one way to really find out how much you do like it or what side of the equation you want to be on. I think also to try to stay engaged as much as possible is hard. I think it's harder now than it's ever been. It used to be you'd go to big Republican gatherings and there'd be 1,500 people there and you'd bring in Gerald Ford or somebody and pack the place. We just don't do that much anymore, and that was sort of the breeding ground for younger people. I mean, I went to a lot of those. I'm not sure it was voluntary. I had to go, but I went to a lot of those. I would say pick something that you're interested in. Maybe if you're trying to figure out how to get involved, maybe if you have an area of interest, if you're interested in the environment, or if you're interested in the defense, or if you're interested in health issues. if you can hone in that way, that's kind of how I got started. The first time I started, mine was school safety, of making our schools safer. And so that's sort of where my interest came, coming right out of being really a full-time mother to going into the legislature. And I would say, like you did, Carabeth, there's internships, and you went to Washington to be able to see, get exposed to your leaders and to find out, I think people get surprised sometimes. They find out we're just regular people. Like, I want to go home and see the soccer game just like every other grandmother in America, those kinds of things. And I think that sort of humanizes us much more than if you're just observing from the TV. It looks like, speechifying and all those kinds of things. But to keep your level of interest up, I'm just so impressed with the program and the students and the questions. They just did a great job. And you've obviously picked well, but you're now in this, 26 years, you say? But you got it honed down. I mean, these are stars, and we're going to see that. I told one of the young men, I said, "You're probably going to run for office someday," and he goes, "Well, we're hoping so." So anyway, that's what I would say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Capito. We'll talk later about who that was, so and which side of the aisle they're on. Thank you for coming, Senator McConnell. Thank you for bringing Senator Capito here to us in this long train of incredible speakers that we've had here at the McConnell Center. If I could ask Provost Cardarelli to lead our platform party out, and everybody else hold here for just a moment, please. And while she's doing that, I'd like to ask everybody to come back, and we're going to have a very different kind of experience on November the 5th.
I'm taking my intro with me. And when he starts getting mad at me, I'll just go, "Read this, honey."
On November the 5th, we will have in this auditorium at 6 p.m. a very different kind of presentation where we'll explore maybe the opposite of Mitch McConnell as a Louisvillian, and that is Hunter S. Thompson. So feel free to come back or tune in online for that. Thank you all for coming out. Safe travels, and we'll see you next time.